shares pre-open mildly lower on the Nifty and the Sensex, but IT right on top. So Infosys, Tech Mahindra, HCL Tech, Wipro, TCS, all showing you gains of about 1 to 3%. Let's see whether they can sustain and build on that. But for now, let's turn our attention to the NBFC sector. The Bihar government has tightened the grip on MFIs. They've mandated registration, curbing unethical recovery practices. We have with us Shah, Senior VP, IIFL Capital, to talk more about this. Viral, thank you very much for joining in. Bihar is important, right, for the MFI sector. I read somewhere, I think the AUM from Bihar for MFI is more than 45,000 crore rupees, and that's about 16% of the industry. Take us through this particular news flow, what's come out from Bihar and the impact.
See, this is in a series of regulations that were put out over the last 1.5 years across the states of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and now we have Bihar. Essentially, the primary purpose of these regulations is to basically prevent the unregulated entities to kind of do usurious kind of lending, or basically which leads to leveraging amongst the borrowers. Now, I would say, unfortunately, the impact of this is that you have the regulated entities also that gets impacted, because on the ground level, it becomes difficult to make the distinction. Having said that, I think this regulation specifically has certain other incremental provisions which could be somewhat negative for the NBFC, MFI.
So what is particularly negative? Does recovery become a problem, or will lending slow down and therefore affect growth? And tell us 2-3 companies most affected by this.
So, see, basically, it's a combination of all these things that you mentioned. There will be growth that will slow down. That will also be an asset quality challenge that will come through, because there are certain provisions basically restricting the lending beyond 2 lenders, etc. So there is going to be an impact. Now, we have put out this report today morning, which lays out the exposure in Bihar across various players. The extent of impact is going to be predominantly more high for northern focused MFI lenders, and probably it will be then gradually lower for others.
You want to name a few of those companies that get impacted relatively more in comparison to the others?
So the pure play MFIs like your Fusion, Spandanas of the world, they do stand to be negatively impacted. You have SFBs like Utkarsh, you have even Ujjivan who have higher exposure in those geographies. So they also stand to be negatively impacted. Even L&T Finance has 20% of its MFI portfolio there.
Is the news material to cause EPS downgrades?
Yes.
It
is going to be. Basically, the recovery that we all were anticipating in MFI, because of this kind of gets pushed back by a couple of quarters.
Okay.
And sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, is there a signaling effect here as well? I mean, as an analyst, will you say, well, where else can something like this happen now? Is there a risk, or?
I think if you go back, this was probably, say, a couple of years back, the central government had brought out a bill called Bula, which essentially was trying to restrict the unregulated lending in the country. I think these are various versions of those bills being put out by different states. It all depends on how fast the growth in respective state is, or say the so-called borrower distress is, right? Because what unfortunately ends up happening is that there is an over-lending, over-leveraging, then there is actually stress amongst borrowers, and that's when the state governments are forced to act.
How many states have implemented a similar act?
So last year we had Karnataka, followed by Tamil Nadu, now we have Bihar.
Okay, so 3 so far. And there is a risk that the other states follow suit.
Yes, but I think gradually, as we have seen, the states have also learned from this. So Karnataka was a sudden, in my opinion, out of the blue, followed by Tamil Nadu. I think Bihar has also implemented it, but after in consultation with a lot of the industry players.
And the Bihar MFI portfolio itself has been declining, right, over the last couple of years?
So if you look at the overall industry has been declining, so has Bihar. Okay. The extent of decline for Bihar has been lower.
Has been lower. Okay. All right. Got it. So that's about Bihar. Let's focus on the other sectors then. Yesterday the big news piece was on Chola. Now we know there's not going to be any big rejig at the top, at least as of now. But Chola has always had a big valuation premium in comparison to, say, a Shriram Finance. Now we know Shriram Finance has fresh capital. And that's why that valuation gap could actually narrow. Would you be in that camp? Because some believe that now Chola doesn't deserve that kind of premium. What do you think?
So, it's not just one versus the other,
okay.
Right? If you look at the Indian market, the Indian lending space is basically 250 lakh to 300 lakh crores market. Over there, even if you look at Chola is a 2 lakh crore player, Shriram is a 4 lakh crore player, potentially even going ahead if you look at it. So it is a very small portion of the overall credit segment that we have. In terms of valuation, see, there are multiple things that go into the what eventually market ascribes value. Chola commands a premium valuation because of consistency, stability, and basically the ability to deliver superior earnings growth.
Right.
So if you look at the earnings growth that Chola has been delivering, it has been north of 20-22% for the last decade or so.
So you believe that it deserves that multiple? So
eventually, and this is, in my opinion, a few days back, I was discussing with someone else the same thing. In case of lenders, we have this issue of looking at price to book. Few lenders who are consistent, predictable, they also start looking at it on a price to earnings basis, which is what we see in case of Bajaj Finance or a Cholamandalam Finance, or back in the heydays, even HDFC Bank.
Okay, so the top 2 picks for y'all in your coverage universe as of now. You mentioned Bajaj Finance. That's up more than 10% in just the last 1 month or so. If you could give us your top 2 picks.
So, see, overarchingly as a house, we are more positive on banks vis-a-vis NBFCs. NBFCs, the challenge is that there is a risk of earnings cuts because of the GSEC yields that they have hardened. You will see margins, the expansion that we had, all the analysts and investors built in, that will get cut. And which is why the valuations probably could be impacted because of that in case of NBFCs. Now, in this construct, I think within NBFCs, our top 2 picks are basically Tata Capital and Chola Finance, followed by Bajaj and Shriram closely.
Beautiful.
In 20 seconds, if Apple Pay enters India, I know it's very early stages, but it perhaps potentially can be significant. Who will be negatively impacted?
See, again, Apple Pay payment space in India per se doesn't generate any profitability or revenue, right? You'll have to look at adjacency. In India, you look at any of the digital lenders, there is a certain initial scale-up that happens, but beyond that, it is very gradual. You have to build out branches.
Fine Labs and the MobiQuicks, which reacted negatively yesterday, would those be the ones on your radar?
It all depends on what structure it comes in, right? Basically, whether it's a merchant POS they are entering, consumer side, depending on where the profitability is. But yeah.
Good chat, Viral. Thank you for dropping by. Appreciate it. Well, we've got market open coming up, so let's just look at prices as they start